Welcome to Neo Royal House of Pricey Cardboard. On this episode of Commander Gameplay, we're starting a mini-series that will cover my adventure into the Ravnica League Challenge. Those of you who are familiar with Pokemon will quickly understand the highly inspired system. There is 10 guild leaders, one for each 2-color pairing from Ravnica. Players play in pods of 4 against a guild leader and 2 other challengers. Each player must play the same deck throughout the league with a 15-card side deck to make some adjustment. The last player standing wins the guild badge, or in this case, the signet. Players can also claim the signet from completing 5 of the 25 achievements in this list. You need to complete 5 during the same game and you can't claim the same achievement twice. So you could in theory get 5 signets this way and you would need to win your way out of the 5 remaining. The league finals will be a 4-player match with the challengers who manage to get all 10 signets. The creator of this league is Paul Kinter, pkinter13 on Twitter, and is free to enter for anyone who would like to be part of this little online challenge. Players are expected to bring an optimized casual deck that seeks to end the game in the later turns like 8 to 12. There's a deck feedback check on the Discord if you're unsure. The goal is to create a casual experience while adding a little bit of good competition. But it's all fun and games. Finally, in addition to the guild leader playing a deck of the represented guild, a Guildhall card, a lot like a plain chess card, is active for the whole match and is unique to each guild. My first match in the league is the Golgari Guild Hall. The first spell each player plays each turn has Convoke. Paul is the guild leader and will be playing Slimefoot the Stowaway. This commander is looking to get a lot of sap rolling tokens into play to either attack, convoke, or sacrifice to ping his opponents down. While Ashnod's Altar is present in the list, there is no token doubler to make the easy infinite with Slimefoot. We could however see a loop between Earthstone, Ashnod's Altar, and Pitiless Plunderer. The deck I chose for the league is my Sidisi Brood Tyrant list. Looking to mill myself a lot and create an army of zombies. I'm packing a lot of reanimators and graveyard effects. Path of Discovery is the hidden bomb of this list with 44 creatures in the deck. The second challenger is Dean, playing Kruphix, God of Horizon. This is not however the usual Eldrazi package I'm used to, but instead an aggressive group hug list that seeks to make everybody draw the whole library, losing the game. A lot of the bonus draws in the deck are not May effects, and with multiple mana doublers, the X spells can get out of hand quickly. He is also running 21 interaction instants to prevent his opponents from winning, which is frankly a ton. Last but not least, Rob will be playing Judith, the Scourge Diva. This is an aristocrat rakdos list looking to sacrifice a lot of creatures and bring them back from the grave, all the while dealing incremental damage to his opponents. With Slimefoot using a similar strategy, each removal could cost us a lot of life. I do not have the opening hand sadly, so let's get into the game. Rob gets to start this off, and land drops a mountain. Paul land drops Golgari Guild Leader, which is a true flavor win. I land drop Myriad Landscape, and Dean land drops a forest before casting Magus of the Candelabra, ending his first turn. Rob land drops a swamp, and Paul land drops a swamp. I follow the leader and land drop a swamp as well. Dean sadly land drops a forest and casts Doubling Cube. Rob casts Prismatic Lance, but misses his land drop for the turn. Paul land drops a Blighted Woodland and casts his commander, Slimefoot the Stowaway.
You dare challenge the Golgari Gym?
I land drop a Snow-Covered Island and crack my Myriad Landscape to fetch a regular forest and a snow-covered one. Dean sadly has no land to play, and pass. Rob gets back on track and casts Soul Ring, and follow it up with a Burnished Heart. Paul land drops a swamp, and casts Tendershoot Dryad, using the guild hall to convoke one with Slimefoot. At my upkeep, Paul makes a sap rolling token. He will do so at each player's upkeep. I cast my commander, Sidisi, Brood Tyrant.
So we have a word for enemies to mutilated for military services. Furnitures.
Entering the battlefield, I'll mill these 3 cards, which cause me to create a zombie token. I'll land drop a Dakmor Salvage and pass. Dean land drops an island. He then casts Minds Aglow, paying 2 into the effect. Nobody can join forces and each players draw 2 cards. Rob land drops a swamp. He convokes out Squeak Goblin Nabob. He then sacrificed the Burnished Heart to get 2 basics to his battlefield. At Paul's upkeep, the new Saproling is his 10th permanent, and so he gains City's Blessing. He then land drops a forest, and casts Growing Rites of Vitlamok, revealing Winding Constrictor from his top 4. He followed it up with Viscera Seer. Going into combat, he sent 2 Saprolings to me, 1 Saproling to Dean, and 1 Saproling to Rob. Nobody blocks, and take the damage. At the end step, Growing Rites of Itlamok flips into Itlamok Cradle of the Sun. For my turn, I land drop a Drowned Catacomb. I then go to combat, sending Sidisi to Dean. I mill these 3 cards, and create a zombie. Dean takes 3. In second main, I convoke out Beast Within, targeting the Dryad. After that, I cast Underrealm Lich. Dean land drops Alchemist Refuge, and cast his commander, Kruphix, God of Horizon.
Knowledge is cruel. It will break your heart and test your allegiance. Are you certain you want this curse?
Rob land drops a mountain, and convokes his commander, Judith, the Scourge Diva.
You know it's a great show when the Azorius arrests the props too.
He then casts Krav the Unredeemed. Krav is then activated to sacrifice Queet to draw a card, amongst other things. Judith trigger and he targets the Viscera Seer. In response, Paul taps his Cradle to make 2 tokens with Slimefoot. He then sacrifices a tapped Saproling token to scry 1 with the Seer, which makes us lose 1 life to Slimefoot. The Viscera Seer is then destroyed. Paul land drops a Myriad Landscape. He convokes out Magus of the Abyss, and then casts Death Reaped Ritual, a pretty neat duo. For his combat, he sends the Beast token to me. At my upkeep, I destroy my Zombie token. My Lich replaces my drop, and I pick a card from the top 3, sending Phyrexian Tower and Interland Arbor to my graveyard. I then land drop a Scavenger Ground, and head into combat. I send Sidisi to Dean again. I mill these 3 cards, creating a zombie. Dean declares no blocks, but before damage, Paul convokes Chorus of Might targeting my commander. She gets +8/+8 and Dean takes 11. In second main, I convoke out Mildrota the Gravetide. I then cast Ramuna Excavator from my graveyard before passing the turn. At my end step, Paul draws from Morbid. At Dean's upkeep, he destroys his Magus of Candelabra. He then casts Windfall. We each discard our hand and draw 7 new cards. I have 7 draw replacement, which I do while the other players continue their turn. Bottom line, I make 6 zombies token and put 14 cards to my graveyard. Dean then drops a Boseju who shelters all, and pass. At the end step, Paul draws from Orbit. At his upkeep, Rob destroys Krav to the Magus trigger, and pings Paul with Judith. Squee also returns from the graveyard to his hand. He then drops a mountain and convokes out Aid the Fallen, returning Sir Conrad the Grim to his hand, which he then casts, making the table extra deadly. After that, he casts Squee the Immortal. Conrad triggers on the creature leaving the graveyard and deals us 1. At the end step, Paul casts Arrow, sacrificing a swamp, fetching for a swamp in a forest. He also draws from Morbid. At his upkeep, he destroys his Beast token. He convokes out Beastmaster Ascension, and follow it up with Ashnod's Altar, which are 2 very scary cards to be played one after the other. Heading into combat, Rob gets 3 Saproling, and me and Dean get 2 each. Beastmaster gets 7 counters right away and grants +5/+5 to all of his creatures. I block with Ramunap and Underrealm Lich, and before damage, I pay 4 life to make my Lich indestructible. Dean does not block, and Rob blocks with Squeak, letting 2 pass. Conrad and Judith triggers on creature's death. Me and Dean takes 2, while Paul takes 3. In second main, Paul then drops Bojuka Bug, targeting my graveyard to exile.
Alright, and then I am... Alright, didn't play my land for turn. Bojuka Bog Sidisi.
Oh!
Knew I was forgetting something.
A little detail.
Yep.
Alright.
He draws from Morbid at the end step and pass. At my upkeep, I destroy 1 of my zombie tokens to the Magus. Conrad triggers. I then pick a card from my top 3, sending 2 lands to the graveyard. I then drop Field of the Dead for turn. Entering the battlefield, I get a zombie token. I convoke out Dead Baron, and then cast my own Beastmaster Ascension. I go to combat, and send Sidisi, Muldrota, and my Lich to rob, while Paul gets 7 zombie tokens. I get the required counters on Beastmaster Ascension. Reacting to attackers, Paul sacrificed 6 saprolings to Ashnod's altar to create 3 untapped saproling. Slimefoot and Conrad trigger 6 times. I mill these 3 for Sidisi attacking. I create a zombie, but I do trigger Conrad 3 more times. Still before blockers, Paul sacrificed 4 more creatures to make 2 additional saproling, taking me out of the game mid-swing. The turn then gets to Rob, and he land drops a swamp. Looking at his hand, he decides to scoop it up to the Guild Leader and his Altar of Death. Looking back at this game, I did not think I was going to die when I attacked with 21 life. The Conrad really amplified Paul's damage output with the Ashnod's Altar. But beside the bonus Conrad, he had a really solid game. The Tenderfoot Dryad dropped early and stayed long enough for him to get ahead on board. After that, he had just the right amount of saprolings to make his Beastmaster Ascension active while being able to make a ton of tokens with the Altar and the Cradle of the Sun. Dean had a pretty rough game, missing land drops early on and being way too open for the attack potential that me and Paul had. We played a second game, and after that, Kruphix really got to do his thing more. Rob's game was interesting, but I think he lacked a little bit of card draw to really go off. The Magus of the Abyss made it hard for him to build a board state. I did not win the match, but by completing 5 achievements, I claimed the Golgari signet for my collection. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and thank you to the players in my pod and Paul who really created a nice Discord for his challengers. Be sure to subscribe to see the other guilds challenge as we try to reach the Elite 4s. We post 2 videos each week for the whole month of December. You can find all the deck lists and Paul's Twitter in the description. The season is planned to end on December 31st, so you still have time if you want and try it out for yourself. See you soon with another video and take care.